Are you building a Node.js REST API and wondering why Express is the go-to framework? In this video, I'll show you my top 5 reasons why Express is essential for your Node.js backend. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a senior software engineer with years of experience in JavaScript and Node.js. My goal is to help you become a confident and stress-free developer by increasing your skills and proficiency. Let's get started. In the previous video, we built a simple Node.js web server. The API that Node.js provides for HTTP and HTTPS is comprehensive but can produce verbose code that is difficult to read and maintain. There are many packages that are built on the Node.js API to simplify request handling. The most popular of these packages is Express. Let's go ahead and install it in our project with npm install express, and we will also install the types for the Express with npm install savedev types express. As usual, the link to the GitHub repo with the code will be in the description below. At the time of this video, the latest version of Express is still 4.21. However, version 5 is already available and can be installed using tag next. If you want to learn more about Express 5 new features, please check out my video on this topic. The first reason to use Express in your Node.js web server is the router Express provides. Let's go to handler.ts file. We can see that we have the logic to figure out what kind of route we're using and what method request is made with. Express router decouples the route and method logic from the actual handler. So let's go ahead and rename the handler that we have to default handler. And let's go ahead and also create a couple more handlers. We're going to create a notFound handler. It will be a function that takes rec of type of incoming message and res of type of server response as arguments. We're going to call writeHead method on the response with a 404 and message not found, and also and method to send the response. In the same way, we will create a new URL handler. This handler will use writeHead method on the response to set response to 200 OK and send response message hello new URL. Now we can go to the server.ts file and import the handlers we just created. We will update handler import to default handler and also import notFound and new URL handlers. Additionally, we will import Express and Express type from Express package. Next, let's create Express app and define a few routes. The getFavicon route will use the notFound handler, and getNewURL route will use the new URL handler. Finally, we're going to pass Express app to create server function because Express app itself is a handler. Let's start dev server, open API test.http file and send a request to getFavicon. It responds as before with a 404 not found. Let's create a request to get new URL and send it as well. We get response hello new URL, so everything is working. In our code, we only used the get method of the Express, but Express also supports other HTTP methods, and they are post, put, delete, all for any method that matches the route, and use. Use method adds a middleware component which is able to intercept and inspect requests. The second reason to use Express is that Express provides request and response enhancements. Again, if we go to handler.ts file, we can see that it takes at least 2 and maybe 3 lines to send a response. Parsing information from request also takes a little bit of work. With Express, this job is much easier. So let's go ahead and update notFound handler. Instead of incoming message type, we will type rec parameter as request and res parameter as response instead of server response. Request and response come from Express. Let's go ahead and import them from Express package instead of incoming message and server response that we used from the HTTP package. So now to respond with the status 404, we can just use method sendStatus on the response. We'll do the same thing in the new URL handler. We will update types of rec and res to request and response. 3 lines that we use to respond with a hello new URL message can be now collapsed into one res.send. Finally, we can rewrite all the stuff that we have in the default handler in a more concise way using Express request and response. Let's go ahead and delete default handler code, and we can put the following. Export const default handler. The parameters will be rec of type request and res of type response. We can check if rec query keyword exists. If so, we do res.send hello rec query keyword. Otherwise, we respond with hello rec.protocol to uppercase. As you can see, Express lets us access request parameters without creating new URL object. Let's go ahead and save changes, go to API test.http and check if our code is still working. But before we do that, if you are learning something new, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We got 404 not found for favicon route and hello new URL for new URL route, so everything still works. Besides query parameters, Express helps us to easily access route parameters. Let's go ahead and update the new URL route with the optional message route parameter. To process the route parameter, we need to update new URL handler function. Instead of res.send, we're going to put the following. We will create a variable message and assign to it the rec params message if it exists. If it doesn't, we'll just put no message. Then we will simply respond with a hello and the message that we just created. Now let's go to API test.http file and send request to new URL route. And as expected, we got hello no message because there is no route parameter there. Let's update the route to say new URL Alex and send the request again. Now we get a response back hello Alex, so everything seems to work. The third reason to use Express with your Node.js web server is that Express helps easily serve static files. Let's go ahead and create index.html file in the static folder in the root of our project. In this index.html file, we'll put a simple HTML code. In the head of the HTML document, we will import the script called client.js, which we will create in a minute. The body will have a button with the ID of btn and text send request. We will also add two more divs, one with the ID of msg for the response status message and the other one with the ID of body for the message body. Then we can close the body and HTML tags. In the static folder, let's also create client.js file. It will have the following code. We're going to add an event listener to the document for the DOM content loaded event because we imported client.js script in the head of the HTML document. So we need to wait till the document loads before we can select any divs. Then we are going to get element by ID btn and add an event click listener to trigger sendRec function when the button is clicked. SendRec function is an async function that uses fetch to send a request to new URL John endpoint. After response is received, status text of the response is inserted in the div with the ID of MSG and the text of the response in the div with ID of body. Pretty nice and easy. Now we need to update the code to be able to serve index.html and client.js files. So let's go into server.ts file. We can remove express get star with the default handler, and instead of that, we're going to put express app use, and we will use express static middleware pointing to the static folder. We can also remove the not found handler with a favicon route because express static middleware will actually take care of serving 404 responses for not found routes on its own. Let's go ahead, save the changes, and start the dev server. We can now switch to the web browser and go to localhost 3000 where we can see our send request button. If we click on it, we get a response with OK status and message hello John. And this is how Express makes it easy to serve static files. When serving static files with Express, you are not limited to serving them from the folders that you create. You can serve static files from other locations, including the client-side packages. Let's go ahead and install Bootstrap package. Bootstrap is a CSS library. We can use it to add styling to our HTML document. We can use Express static middleware to serve CSS document from Bootstrap. And in order to know where the packages such as Bootstrap have their files that you can serve, you need to check documentation. If you look at the Bootstrap documentation, the CSS files are located in the Bootstrap dist directory. So we are going to put Express static node modules Bootstrap dist. Now let's go to index.html file and put a link to load Bootstrap. href attribute of the link will point to bootstrap min.css file in CSS folder in Bootstrap dist directory. We will also add rel attribute to the link tag with a value of style sheet. Now let's go ahead and style our button. We will add Bootstrap classes btn primary to style the button, and my2 for vertical margin. Let's save the changes, start the dev server, switch to the browser and refresh the page. And now you can see that our button is styled. However, it is a bit too close to the edge. Let's add m4 class to the body of the document to give some breathing room. After refreshing the page, we can see that the button is not so close to the edge of the page anymore. If we click on the button, we get response back. Everything is still working. The fourth reason to use Express is that Express makes it easy sending and downloading files. I put ocean.jpg file in static folder. Let's go ahead and try to serve it as an image and also make browser download this file. With Express, it's going to be super easy. Let's go to server.cs file and add two routes, one for serving and one for downloading the file. First, we need to import request and response types from Express. While at it, let's also delete default and not found handlers since we're not using them anymore. We're going to create a get route send ocean. In the handler for this route, we will call sendFile method on the response. We will pass the file name and config options where we will specify the root as static. The next route will be getDownloadOcean, and in the handler, we will do res.download. Download method on the Express response actually takes the full path of the file that we want the user's browser to download. Download method will send the file in such a way that it will force the user's browser to download that file. Let's go ahead and save the changes. Now we can switch to the browser and we can type localhost/sendocean. And as you can see, we got the ocean right here in our browser. If we put download ocean in the URL, this will force the browser to open the download window so we can save the ocean to our file system. As you can see, Express makes it very easy to serve static files and download them. Finally, reason number 5 to use Express with our Node.js web server is that Express also lets us easily decode and encode JSON. JSON became a de facto standard for data exchange in the APIs. In Node.js, in order to decode JSON, you have to deal with the streams and do a little bit of work. However, Express makes it fairly trivial to decode and encode JSON, so you can basically receive data in JSON format and respond with JSON payload. Let's go ahead and take a look at how to do that. Let's update fetch request in server.js file. We will update the route to hello and method to post. Since we're using post, we need to also have a body. We will JSON stringify an object with a property name and value John. Now let's go to the server.cs file and create a route that will handle this post request. We will do express post method with a route hello. The handler for this route will extract name from rect.body.name. This is the magic of Express. JSON payload got parsed and assigned to the body property of the request. Well, not exactly magic. Actually, we will have to add a specific middleware for Express to be able to parse JSON. We're going to add it in a minute. But first, let's respond back to the client with a JSON object with a greeting property and the value of hello name. Express makes it super easy to respond with JSON. You just use the .json method on the response. Now let's go ahead and add the middleware that will allow Express to parse JSON. We do express app use and we will pass express JSON as an argument. You also have to keep in mind that this middleware needs to be called before any routes that will be using request body. And that's it. This will allow us to be able to parse JSON request body and respond with a JSON as well. Let's switch to the browser. We can go back to localhost 3000 and then we can make a request. We got a response in JSON format, but the value of the greeting is hello undefined instead of hello John. The reason we got undefined is that Express only parses JSON body when it sees content type headers of application JSON. So it is important not to forget to set those headers when you are posting a JSON to the endpoints. Let's go ahead and update our code to set those headers. In client.js file, in the fetch request, let's add another option called headers. It will be an object with a content type property and value application JSON. Let's save the changes, go back to the browser, refresh the page, and make a request again. And now we can see that the message is "Hello, John." The JSON payload is being parsed correctly, with the response coming back in JSON format as well. And there you have it, my top 5 reasons to use Express with Node.js web server. In this video, we used a fairly simple Express app, but if you want to learn how to set up a more sophisticated Express server and how to configure it, please check out this video on how to set up a Node.js Express project.